What up, guys? This is not a review, but kind of like an oversight. I've put over 60 hours into God of War Ragnarok, which is 1,000 times percent more than I thought I would ever put into this game. I'm truly happy with the fact that this game has, over 60 hours of gameplay in it. It's honestly, it's it feels like almost like a linear game that sneaks in over open world mechanics and fucking and when you get down to the nitty gritty, it has the open world gameplay time that you would see in something like Assassin's Creed. 70 hours is pretty incredible. And for it to be put into a God of War game that started off, being 6 to 8 hours, pretty amazing. So I'm basically 100% of the game at this point. I just collected the final Raven out of all the Eyes of Raidens that I've killed, and I'm about to do the final fight. And while I'm doing, I'll just kind of discuss my overall final thoughts on this game and how I feel. But basically, once you get all the Ravens, you have to defeat the Raven Witch or some shit. So that's where we are here. It shouldn't be too tough. I just defeated the Berserker King, and that shit took like fucking hours to do that shit. How annoying. But I got this cool little trick from doing it. Let's see how that works. But anyway, so fucking I've put now fucking so many hours into this game. It's a fantastic game. The story's incredible. What they give you, there's like an open world area that has nothing to do with the story that you kind of find, luckily, and fucking that you would never know about unless you like to start exploring the area. They didn't have to do that, and I'm really appreciative of the fact that they did that. So fucking this game just gives where you never thought it would. I never would have guessed I'd have 70 hours into it. I thought I'd be closer to 30, 35 hours, 40 hours max. Then I hit 50 hours, and I hit 60 hours, and I'm like, wow, how long is it going to give me? It's for sure worth, if this game was 20 hours, 25 hours like the last one, it would be worth it. But this game, like I said, is 70 hours, incredible. But there are negatives again that I'll repeat. And that's kind of them kind of losing what the original God of War was all about. And I said this in my other videos, but my final thoughts here are God of War originally, the original concept of God of War is you're just this badass motherfucker who just doesn't take shit, and his anger and fury and revenge is just on a straight war path to get revenge always possible on the gods that wronged him. With Zeus being at the top, and through those 3 games, he goes on a war path where he kills basically like every god one by one, and also like god, legendary gods and fucking in Greek mythology. And unfortunately, obviously, they're trying to, in this Last of Us version that they've created, trying to show Kratos as a father figure who's grown from that and regrets the decisions he's made in the past, which is great. That I'm not saying he shouldn't have character development, but if you're going to go down the same path, regardless, where you're going to have to kill gods, I just wish that they would go all in on it. And it kind of bums me out that they didn't. Even with like the final boss fight versus the all-seeing god, it's all kind of just an overall kind of just a lackluster fight. Honestly, like the fight ended, and I'll blame myself because I really explored that open world, and so when I got to the final fight, I was, probably overpowered. So it's not like it was the most difficult fight. But even with that being said, it's just like it wasn't grand. It like, yeah, he had powers and stuff. Like he wasn't the easiest guy ever, but it was just like fighting a normal dude who has like some magic. And fucking, you know, and I don't want to spoil it for you, but I'll tell you this: the fight versus Thor is fucking definitely lackluster. That's a piece of shit. And the only other god really beyond that you've run into in the game is Heimdall. Even that was like, you know, that's like the only god. That's like the only god that you really fight that's actually like kind of like you have the hatred that you would have in the previous games, and that ending was fucking weak, man. I mean, the fucking fighting beside you in God of War 3 is a higher highlight of killing than fucking every fight in this game. It's just a bummer, you know, like that was it. Like God of War 3, fighting Poseidon, you know, he uses his powers like open the oceans and create a fucking like a water, and then you're fighting on the side of Gaia, like that, you know, like I want to see that, but not with nowadays graphics. Like that's what fucking would be dope as fuck, and they didn't do that. And so that's my negative. I feel like, you know, I'm all about the changes they made, but it's just fucking, but it's just not the Kratos that we love dear. Yes, we love this new Kratos, but they could have, I mean, this is a game that is all about originally killing gods. So if that's what you're gonna base your franchise on originally, and that's what essentially the core of the franchise really is, fucking, you know, and that's like what God of War. The thing that sucks the most is that was, you know, no matter how you make God of War and how you want to make him overall, like they knew that the crux and the key to this were these grandiose battles where you're like a fucking normal sized man. You know, fucking fighting titans and fighting gods and fucking and still pulling off and fighting monsters that are huge. Like that's what drew everyone in, and they've made the story up 1,000, but they've scaled down like the greatness of fighting a god, which again is just a bummer. Still a great game. Love the story. I love how much they tied into it. Like, if I ever look back of how this story started compared to how it ended, I mean, you know, if you think about God of War back in the day, where, you know, like you like fight Zeus and then in God of War 2, but then they like leave it, and then you go on this like powered murder train in God of War 3, where fucking where you have to, you know, where you have to kill other gods. Like, they really, I feel like they really stretched that out, and they kind of did the opposite of this, where they could have fit, like, you know, another game out of it probably, and just dragged it out even more. It's nice that they kind of ended it and made it, kind of going away where, obviously there could be a new game, but it's like, you know, we don't know what it is. We know it's not going to be like Odin, most likely. So with that being said, I respect that, but I'm happy that fucking they didn't drag it out. But I don't know. I just wish it was more grand. You know, I'd love to see God of War today with the grandness of the past. The pale one? Am I fighting a fucking dragon, bro? Like, what the fuck? Fucking bullshit. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Beyond that, you know, that everything they did is fantastic. I love the fact that how much they gave me and how much they gave all of us. I fucked this dragon up. He's done for. But yeah, I just wish that the grandiose battles of before were here, and you know, we can see Kratos forced into fucking, you know, just laying gods out one by one and fighting gods that were like the Titans. I mean, truly, you know, we live in a world where obviously the Greek Titans and the Viking Titan gods are all live in the same world. But if there was a war, you know, like a God of War, you know, where the Greek fucking gods and the fucking and the Viking gods all live in the same universe. Like the Viking gods will get laid out fucking immediately. Like if they're lackluster, all they really have is the fucking Valkyries. They just don't have a good set of gods. But that's my thing. That was the fight versus the final thing I had to do. The fucking Raven Queen, whatever the fuck she's called on her name. So Eyes of Odin completed, guys. This game has been 100%. It is an awesome game. Like I said, I'm about 70 hours in. Incredible. Play it if you can. It's worth it. Get it for Christmas. Play the game. It's fantastic. I can't believe if I would have thought when I first played God of War, you know, back then, in the shitty ass graphics, I was like, this is a cool game, you know. It kind of got me into video games again, you know, because video games weren't that good back then. And then, fuck, if I would have known that obviously it was so good and to be to this day, when Prince of Persia was also out back then, kind of doing the same thing, where's that nowadays, right? So yeah, get it, guys. Later.